Can a single economic idea fundamentally reshape the destiny of billions and topple empires within a few short decades? This profound question initiates our investigation into the 91st event of the world's Top 100 series. Today we explore the global expansion of the market economy. Welcome to this comprehensive documentary examining the seismic shifts that transformed the global landscape during the late 20th century. We are witnessing the dismantling of centralized planning and the unprecedented rise of an international trading system that connects every corner of our planet today. To understand our current trajectory, we must first analyze the historical conditions that necessitated such a radical departure from the post-war status quo. From London to Shenzhen, the world prepared for an ideological revolution that would redefine prosperity for billions of individuals. In this 20-minute journey, we will dissect the data, milestones, and human stories behind this transition. Stay with us as we travel through time to witness the moments when the market's invisible hand began to grasp the world. The narrative commences in the late 1970s, a period plagued by a suffocating phenomenon known as stagflation. Western economies remained trapped in a cycle of high inflation and low growth, leading many to believe that the Keynesian consensus had reached its limit. In the United Kingdom and the United States, traditional manufacturing hubs witnessed a terrifying decline as global competition and rising energy costs made old production methods obsolete. The social fabric of industrial towns began to unravel rapidly. By 1979, Margaret Thatcher rose to power, bringing a radical vision of privatization and free market fundamentalism to the forefront of British politics. She believed that individual initiative should replace state dependence as the primary driver of growth. The privatization of British Telecom in 1984 was a landmark event, turning a state-owned monopoly into a competitive public company and encouraging a new culture of share ownership among ordinary citizens. Across the Atlantic, the Reagan Revolution championed similar policies in the United States, focusing on reducing government spending and deregulating key sectors to stimulate private investment. His supply-side approach promised to revitalize the stagnant American economy. In the United States, the Reagan administration's policies were credited with a significant rise in household net worth and the creation of millions of jobs in the burgeoning service and technology sectors. Simultaneously, a separate but equally consequential shift occurred in Asia. Following the death of Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping rose to power and launched the Reform and Opening policy, signaling a departure from strict central planning. Reforms began in agriculture with the household responsibility system, which allowed farmers to keep a portion of their harvest for private sale. This simple change provided the first taste of market incentives for millions. Deng famously described this incremental process as crossing the river by feeling the stones. He established special economic zones, with Shenzhen acting as a primary laboratory for capitalistic experiments and foreign investment. Shenzhen's transformation from a fishing village to a global megacity in just 2 decades remains one of the most visible symbols of China's successful integration into the world market economy. The number of domestic firms engaged in foreign trade exploded from just 12 in 1978 to over 5,000 a decade later. This integration into global trade changed China's economic trajectory fundamentally. In 1991, facing a severe balance of payments crisis, India initiated a series of radical economic reforms under Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Manmohan Singh, dismantling the old license Raj. These changes opened India to foreign investment and trade, unleashing decades of unprecedented economic growth that transformed its cities and integrated it into the global economy. In the 1990s, the Asian tigers witnessed a spectacular economic boom, with Seoul's streets bustling as South Korea transformed into a global industrial and technological leader. Singapore's massive container terminals became the beating heart of global trade, symbolizing the city-state's strategic importance in the new interconnected market economy. Taiwan's high-tech manufacturing lines, producing advanced electronics for the world, further solidified the region's role as a primary engine of global economic growth and innovation. The late 90s saw the dawn of the digital age, with the Netscape Navigator browser opening the gates to an early internet that would soon revolutionize every aspect of global commerce. The dot-com bubble created a frenzy of speculation as frantic traders fueled a stock market surge based on the transformative potential of new technology companies. In Poland, the Solidarność movement, which began in the shipyards of Gdańsk, represented a massive civil resistance that challenged the communist government and paved the way for the first free elections in the Eastern Bloc. The 1980s became a lost decade for much of Latin America, as nations struggled with sovereign debt crises and crippling hyperinflation, forcing citizens into long, weary queues for basic necessities. Data from the World Bank shows annual inflation rates soaring to thousands of percent in countries like Brazil, Peru, and Mexico, effectively wiping out savings and destabilizing societies for years. In Europe, leaders signed the Maastricht Treaty, creating the European Union and laying the foundation for a single currency that would integrate the continent's markets like never before. The introduction of the euro banknotes and coins marked a historic milestone in economic history, facilitating seamless trade and financial stability across diverse European nations. The most dramatic expansion occurred between 1989 and 91 with the total collapse of the Soviet bloc. Countries in Eastern Europe attempted a shock therapy transition to rapidly establish market mechanisms. Unlike China's gradualism, this sudden move led to an initial sharp decline in productivity and hyperinflation in nations like Russia and Ukraine. The transition from central planning was fraught with social and economic turmoil. The Russian voucher privatization program aimed to distribute state wealth to citizens, but often resulted in the concentration of assets in the hands of a few emerging oligarchs during the turbulent 90s. These vouchers represented a desperate attempt to create a capitalist class overnight, though the social cost was immense, with millions of families facing sudden economic displacement and loss of security. The establishment of the World Trade Organization in 1995 provided a formal legal framework for resolving trade disputes and further liberalizing international commerce on a global scale. World trade as a share of global GDP stood at 27% in 1970, but exceeded 50% by the century's end. Global nominal income grew from approximately $3 trillion to over $31 trillion in just 3 decades. The containerization of shipping/transportation costs, while the ICT revolution allowed for the 24/7 operation of global financial markets. This expansion was fueled by the entry of China, India, and the former Soviet bloc. This integration resulted in a 5-fold increase in global GDP per capita. We see a move from state dirigisme to a market-oriented world that continues to redefine our existence today. Every data point tells a story of transformation. The standardization of shipping containers revolutionized logistics, reducing the cost of moving goods across oceans by over 90% and enabling the creation of global just-in-time supply chains. Supply chains became increasingly fragmented, with a single consumer product often containing components manufactured in a dozen different market-oriented nations before final assembly. The entry of China, India, and the former Soviet bloc into the international trading system effectively quadrupled the global labor force, creating a massive pool of workers for the expanding market economy. The expansion of global manufacturing also led to the feminization of the labor force, as millions of women in developing nations entered the formal market economy for the first time in history. While global GDP per capita increased significantly, the era also witnessed a great divergence, where the income gap between the wealthiest and poorest nations continued to widen. Sleek corporate offices in glass skyscrapers symbolize the new era of globalized capital, where multinational corporations operated across borders with unprecedented speed and efficiency. However, this expansion also sparked intense social resistance, as seen in the 1999 Seattle protests, where demonstrators challenged the perceived injustices of the global trading system. The legacy of this era is a world that is more interconnected and interdependent than ever before, creating both unprecedented opportunities and new risks for the global community. Every data point tells a story of transformation, As we have observed, the expansion of the market economy was not merely a series of policy adjustments, but a fundamental reorganization of human civilization. It brought about unprecedented growth and connectivity, though it also left us with new challenges regarding inequality and global stability. Thank you for joining us on this extensive journey through the 90th event of our series. We hope this documentary has provided you with a clearer understanding of the forces that shaped our modern world. Your engagement helps us continue producing these detailed historical accounts. We will continue to explore the most significant events in human history in our upcoming episodes. Please reflect on how these global economic changes have impacted your own local community and the opportunities available to you today. 구독과 좋아요를 눌러주세요. 감사합니다.